Hello and welcome back to some fun classification work. I have Selena and Abby here with me. And maybe you've done some of the Kingdom Animalia work that we've done in the past, but today we're going to start something new. We're going to look at one of the other two original kingdoms. Back when classification of plants and animals and things started with Carl Linnaeus and the Linnaean naming system, Carl had two types of life, plants and animals. And he called those two the kingdoms of life. And there was Kingdom Animalia, anima meaning breath or soul, and Kingdom Vegetalia, from the Latin vegetare meaning to grow. And yes, animals and plants both grow, but specifically Animalia had that bit of the soul and to breathe. And so Vegetalia was the kingdom of things that grew without a soul or will of their own. Now, in modern time, there are more than two kingdoms. In fact, there are, throughout time, we went from 2 kingdoms to 3 to 5, 6, all the way up to 8. And now, as recently as 2015, the most modern classification system says there's 7. And so it's really interesting to think about the different kingdoms of life. And so for our materials, we're just going to be talking about, for today, or for this series, we're going to be talking about the plant kingdom, or Kingdom Vegetalia, as it was traditionally called for Maria Montessori. And then, of course, Kingdom Animalia. If you want to learn more about those other kingdoms, we can talk about that too in other lessons, and also that could be some fun, inspired work to find out what those other kingdoms have in them. For today, though, we're going to switch our view here, and we're going to look at our material. And we remember, just like Kingdom Animalia, it's like opening a present. So will you do the honors of opening this present? They didn't really open it very much, but that's okay. We're going to set our string off to the side. And this is our largest folder. And so right now, because we're just getting started, it just has information about the Kingdom Vegetalia, or Kingdom Plantae, as it's known as now. And there is a lot of card material for me to read about, and I will do that. We'll show you a slideshow of some pictures that go along with them as I'm reading them. But I'll lay out these pictures while I get started. These are pictures of plants that grow in different parts of the world. And if you've already done some ecosystem work or zone work, you'll know that the jungle or the rainforest and the deciduous forest and the tundra are places that we've talked about before. There we go. We have all those laying out there. It's a little bit shiny when you look at that. Okay, so there's, like I said, there's a lot of card material, and so I'll show you a slideshow of plants while I read these cards. Okay, enjoy these pictures while I read.
Kingdom Vegetalia, or Kingdom Plantae. Vegetare in Latin means to grow, and although animals also grow, the name Vegetalia has been applied to plants because they are generally fixed. They have no will of their own, nor do they have feelings or memory of events like animals. They just grow. Plants are the only living beings which build feeding materials upon which, directly or indirectly, all living things depend on for their nourishment. They derive the material necessary for the building of their various organs from water and certain salts dissolved in it, and from carbon dioxide, which is in the air and in the water. Plants live wherever there is sufficient warmth and moisture. There are plants everywhere, in the oceans, the lakes and rivers, on plains and mountains, on rocks and sand. Some of them are even able to live on snow and in water, which is so hot that it's nearly boiling.
Okay, I hope that you liked that introduction to what it means to be part of Kingdom Vegetalia or Kingdom Plantae. And some of the other information that is here in this folder is information about the roots, the leaves, and the flowers. And I know that so far this year, we've done a lot of work with the leaves and the stem, and we've gotten a little bit into the root, and we will get to the flower. And I know some of you have already done some of that work other places. So I'm going to read all about leaves and show pictures of the leaves. I'm going to read about the roots and show pictures of the roots, and then show pictures of the flowers while I read to you about the flower. These are the important parts of the plants that we look at to further classify them in Kingdom Vegetalia or Kingdom Plantae. Okay, we'll see you in just a second on the other side of the slideshow.
The leaves. Plants eat with their leaves and drink with their roots. The stem is used to bring both leaves and flowers into the best situation to fulfill their functions. The leaves consist generally of a thin, expanded surface called lamina, from the Latin lamina or laminate, which means thin plate, which is attached to the stem by a much narrower portion, often called the petiole, from the Latin petiolus, diminutive of pes or pedis, meaning foot. To keep the lamina extended, there is a sort of skeleton made of material more resistant than that of the rest of the leaf. Because the parts of the skeleton resemble the veins in the body of an animal, they have been given the same name, veins, from the Latin vena. The veins are arranged either in the form of a net, or they proceed from the base to the top of the leaf in parallel lines. The food of the plant is manufactured in the leaves. The carbon of the carbon dioxide taken from the air is retained, and the oxygen is returned to the air. Water, containing certain salts in solution, comes from the roots to the leaves, with the carbon, water, and salt. The roots. The roots are generally cylindrical. They bore into the soil. They have a cap of more resistant material which protects the tip. Behind the tip, the root is surrounded, for a short distance, by very thin hairs. The root hairs are composed of absorbing cells which take in water and its contents from the soil. The cells are made in such a way that although they let the water in, they do not allow it to return to the soil, and so the water is pushed up towards the leaves. The pressure which creates this ascent is called root pressure. The roots are sensitive to the moisture and turn towards it. They are also sensitive to gravity, so they always turn toward the earth. They escape from light. These sensitivities are located in the tip of the root. Roots are true roots when they fulfill the tasks just described. They are also used for many other purposes. When that happens, they assume particular names. The roots keep the plants firmly attached to the ground. Some plants have a main root or taproot from which the other roots branch. Some plants have roots which are all alike and proceed in a bundle from the lower part of the stem. The word root comes from the late Anglo-Saxon and Icelandic word rot, which related to the Latin radix or radicus means a root. The flower. The flower is the part used by the plant to make seeds, from which new plants are made. The flower contains a pistil, from Latin pistillum or pestle, meaning club-shaped implement for pounding. The pistil contains the ovules, from Latin ovulum, meaning egg, and the stamens, from the Latin stamen or stamenus, a warp in an upright loom, which is from stare, meaning to stand. One grain of pollen joins one ovule, and from this union the seed is formed. The pistil generally consists of an ovary containing the ovules, and style, from Latin stylus, meaning pillar or kind of column, and the stigma, from Latin stylus, meaning mark or brand. The stigma is the top of the style. It is this usually sticky stigma which receives the grains of pollen. When these come into the stigma, material from the pollen grain travels down a tube which grows from the pollen grain to reach an ovule. Pollen is carried to the stigma either by the wind or by an animal. The type of animal that usually carries pollen is the insect, who sucks the sugary nectar of the flower. The flower attracts insects with the help of the corolla, from the Latin corona, meaning crown. Generally, these are brightly colored to draw the insect's attention. The calyx is nearly always green, like the leaves. Calyx comes from Latin calyx, meaning cup. The calyx protects the other parts of the flower when the flower is still in a bud.
I hope that you either reviewed or learned something new about the different parts of the plants that make up all of these plants. I have our Kingdom Vegetalia wheel here where we can look at the different parts. We can see all of the different parts that make up part of our Kingdom Vegetalia. Okay, all of our pictures and our card materials are going to go back in our folder so that they're ready for us next time when we rejoin you. Oh my goodness, there was one more we didn't get out, the stem. It did seem like there wasn't enough information. Now we'll show you a slideshow of pictures of the stem while I read you the stem.
The stem. The land plants must obtain the water and other substances which are dissolved in it, necessary to produce its various organs, and the food from the ground, and find means to distribute it to all parts of the plant. This is done by the stem. The protoplasm of the cells in the stem builds cells shaped like cylindrical vases, When the cell walls have been built, the protoplasm withdraws and the walls between the two superimposed cells breaks down. In this way, tubes are built, and you have a structure in which the liquid substances can circulate rapidly. Plants which use this mechanism for transporting the liquid are called vascular plants, from the Latin vasculum, a vessel. Not all plants have this structure, but those with stems do. Stems may be woody or herbaceous, which are green and softer, from Latin herba, meaning grass. In woody stems, the walls of the vascular tubes are thick. There are two sets of tubes, one that transports the liquid from the roots to the leaves, the other transports the food produced by the leaves, as well as other material, to the various parts of the plant. The word stem comes from the Greek stam, meaning trunk.
Well, what a relief that we got the stem added in there. Okay, so now we can put all of our card material back inside of our envelope, and we're gonna tie it back up like the gift that it is. And next time we join you, we will talk to you more about plants, and classification of plants based on their parts. Finger? Ooh, lots of fingers.
Finger volunteers.
Okay, there's our gift of Kingdom Plantae, Kingdom Vegetalia, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.